Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 75 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, May 21st, 2023. It's that time of year when even at 10 after 7, I've still got light coming in through the blinds over in the side of my room here. So I've got the nice stripes across my face, but you know what? You shouldn't be looking at my face anyway. Even with the two of us on the screen, if you've got your choice, look at Mike. It's fine.
Wait a minute. Will you do that again? We can record that or just save that snippet.
Well, if you want it, you can go to the trouble of you can go.
Hey, I just remind our viewers to keep an eye on me, make sure I stay awake the whole podcast.
Yeah, Mike said he's been running around a lot the last few weeks.
Yeah. I think I laid down Saturday morning at about 3:15 and was up at 7, and I'm still paying the price. And that wasn't going out. That was,
not a lot of fun stuff, unfortunately.
No. That's the thing. The people who designed those 1960 replica hospital chairs, because here's the thing, Whitey. The one I've been in the last couple of days still has a tag on it. And I'm thinking, no, that can't be made new. I'm sorry. It's fake.
So here's what we're going to do today. There's several regional championship baseball and softball teams from our area for us to talk about. We're going to get to all those. I think we'll tease this. We'll save the St. Anthony Altamont baseball regional championship game. We'll save that for last. We'll probably get the St. Anthony T-Town softball game just before that, but we'll go through everything else first because those were not the only regional championship games involving local teams that took place over the last couple of days. We also want to make sure that we give a shout out to a few of the junior high kids that went to the state, a couple of state track champions.
2 state champions.
In the 3A and 4A junior high state meets this weekend. They did the small schools last weekend. They do the large schools this weekend. We'll probably get to those first. We'll get to some of that other stuff, but that's the plan. And we're going to try to run through it because Mike's a tired guy. He needs to get his sleep because he's got to go to
beauty
work.
Sleep, Whitey. Beauty sleep.
Yeah. So we will get to those. And there's only a couple of kids. We mentioned all the state champions from the area in the 7th and 8th grade 1A and 2A meets last weekend. Well, this past weekend we had a couple. We had a young lady from Cumberland, Kinley McMeekin, in the 7 3A meet. She won the 100-meter dash. So congratulations to her. And then even more local to at least to kind of what we pay attention to, Hayden Tebby won the discus in the 8 3A meet. And of course, with the name Tebby, I don't know if I really need to tell you, but that's a Teutopolis student. So there you go. So congratulations to both of them. We had
several other kids there. Just like we did in 1A and 2A, we only have time for the champions. So congratulations to those guys. Congratulations to all the other kids that went up there.
The state, the girls track state IHSA, the high school state meet was this weekend too. I think we could do the girls and boys. We could kind of round that all up and maybe do all that.
I don't think we had any champions in the girls side.
Probably not.
And our best option maybe got injured because Caitlin Balling, she had the number 1 time in the 100.
Yeah.
And we had one of the top times in the 200 and 400, and their relay was decent. And I saw when the events were coming through, I was checking it on Friday or Thursday. Thursday, I guess, is when they first run, isn't it? 1A and 2A is Thursday.
Yes.
And the relay didn't do so well. They were probably a second half, 2 seconds off their best time of the year. And then I saw in the 100, she didn't qualify for the finals, and she was probably a second and a half off her best time there. And then she scratched in the 2 and the 4. So that's unfortunate because, she's put a lot of work in. She's a dominant runner.
And it was a good it was a good weekend for it too. Friday, the
Yeah,
weather.
weather-wise was pretty good. I just saw a picture when they won the sectional. Their 4x1 relay team had a picture taken, and she had ice on her
Yeah,
quad or her hamstring in that picture. Um, and unfortunately, I don't know if Caitlin's a senior or not. So
but they did. They had nice days on Thursday and
yes,
Saturday.
they did.
Friday, the big school qualifying day in Charleston, the weather was definitely. It didn't get rainy until I left. I left work a little after 4:30, and it was just starting to rain a little bit. Then don't know if
Yeah,
they had. They definitely had some delays for
that was
lightning.
on Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I drove in rain almost pretty much the whole way to Springfield. So
yeah.
with there, and I'll tell you, north of Effingham, a lot more rain because the ditches between Effingham and Cowden had a lot of water.
Well, and that's the thing. And not to spoil this too much, but I was listening to the St. Anthony T-Town softball game on the radio on my way home, and they were talking about, they were playing that game in a pretty steady rainfall, I guess. And I'm thinking, boy, it must be raining a lot harder where I'm at between Charleston and Neoga than what it's doing there, because there's no way they'd be playing in this.
Right, and I think it was, and I actually think Effingham probably got a little more rain than T-Town, to be honest. The way when I looked at the map, it was kind of one of those angular
Mm-hmm.
situations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Whitey, there we have another state champion. I almost forgot.
Oh.
IHSA bass fishing.
Oh.
Ethan Taylor and Devin Daters from Teutopolis were the state champions by almost either by slightly over 2 pounds or slightly under 2 pounds.
So I know that like it feels like the bass fishing it's hard for
It's
them to get.
canceled every year because of storms on
Yeah.
like Carlisle.
Yeah.
But they got it in, and I think after the first day they were in like fourth or fifth. And I have to give a special shout out because Ethan's one of my golfers. So I'm guessing some of the words of wisdom I've passed on to him during the golf season.
I
Didn't
can't
hear that, did you?
uh just a little snippet,
Yeah.
not unintelligible. Let's put it that way. I knew something was going on.
It's some CAT scan tech from Vanderbilt calling. So
We're
I'll text him and see what's going on. But yeah, so Ethan was a state champ and very glad to,
It was good timing
very
on
happy
it.
to see that.
Good timing on the call, honestly, because you were starting to kind of ramble on some BS. So, it's just sort of
Especially.
some sort of a cosmic reminder to rein yourself in a little bit.
Yeah, that's called karma, Whitey.
So, softball wise, as far as as far as some of the regionals, we had the National Trail Conference. Besides St. Anthony, I think by now if you're watching this that St. Anthony did beat T-Town in that softball sectional or softball regional championship, and that's 2A. So the National Trail had a couple of 1A schools, actually 3 1A schools win their regionals because
Really, 3-1A. So that's
Altamont, Altamont, South Central, and Windsor Stew Straws all won their regionals.
awesome.
Altamont hosted. They were a 3 seed in their half of the sectional, and so they got an upset over number 2 Edwards County, beat them 4-1. That was after beating Clay City 9-4 in the semifinals. And the story coming out of that is that Grace Lemke was the pitcher in both of those games for Altamont, and I assume their pitcher most of the time. 19 strikeouts in the semifinal and 15 strikeouts in the championship game.
Yeah, and I did a game on the radio last year. I think it was Windsor Stew played Edwards County at the KZ sectional.
Yeah.
And Edwards County had a lot of strikeouts that game too.
Yep.
I don't know if it was a changeup they were struggling with. But yeah, they were only had about 2 kids who could really hit the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
they didn't, Whitey. They went almost one time through the order without hitting a fair ball. Let's just put it that way. I still remember making that. I was keeping, how you keep pitch counts?
Yeah.
I was keeping how many batters until they hit a fair ball.
Well, here's the thing, Altamont, and I had not realized this, but the record's 10-21 now, according to their Max Preps page. So that's, they none of that matters if you get the hardware right. But they're
No, and the thing is the pitcher could have been, they could have had some injury. She could have
yeah.
not been 100%. Maybe
I'm
they
not
were missing some kids. Who knows?
I'm not going to pretend like I know a
No,
ton.
I
It's
haven't seen you at any of the Altamont softball games I was at.
I will say that the name Lemke, I'm a big fan of that.
Is she a
Certainly,
short second baseman?
Mark
No.
Lemke also did some broadcasting at some point too, and the man has a very interesting voice. Love to listen to him talk, but
He sound like a leprechaun because he kind of looks. It looks like Glenn Hubbard.
yeah, no, he's got a real deep voice. Kind of, it's I don't know. It's just kind of funny. It's not what you would expect from a guy who looks like him.
Okay.
I don't know. Nobody named Blauser on the Altamont softball team, as far as I know. So unfortunately, can't get all the old early '90s Braves middle.
That's already too much Braves reference for this show.
Best record in the National League, baby. Best record in the National
So
League.
far, let's throw that disclaimer in there, buddy. I had a Cubs fan from Little Rock, Arkansas, text me ordering my dad's book and said, "I'm afraid they just woke up sleeping giant."
Well, I think the Cubs were always playing a little over their head, and the Cardinals have always been playing a little worse than they should be. So, it's
Ask the Red Sox, ask the Brewers, and ask the Dodgers.
all evening out a little bit. So Altamont's great prize for winning that regional, though, is that they get to face Casey Westfield.
Yeah, that's not a big prize.
No, Casey beat Central A&M 15-0, and then Diedrich 10-0 to win their regional. Casey's number one seed, obviously. They've only lost once or twice this year. One of those was to South Central, and we'll get to South Central in a minute. But that's at the South Central sectional. South Central is hosting a sectional. That's Wednesday. That's a Wednesday sectional semifinal. The Tuesday semifinal at South Central is going to be South Central versus Windsor Stew Straws.
Ooh, that'd be a good ball game.
Windsor Stew Straws was the number 2 seed. They won the Hudsonville Regional. They beat Cumberland 7-4 in the championship game.
That game was played in downtown Hudsonville, or it used to be. That's where the field used to be.
Played over 2 days, by the way. That one they had to go back and finish it, as I understand.
That's going to be a theme in our show today, isn't it?
It is. They actually finished that one, though. That one was competitive enough that they said we need to finish it. Windsor Stew Straws, I got them at 14-10 on the year. Sam Hayes, who is she's a pretty integral part of their basketball team over there as well. She pitched 8 strikeouts in the win.
You're pretty quick too.
Yeah, she's an athletic kid. She's not a senior either, so she's not finished yet. And they'll face South Central, as we mentioned. South Central, so they beat Weber Township 10-0 in the semifinals, and so that put them against Grayville in the championship. South Central, the other number 1 seed in this sectional complex. They played Grayville. Grayville's 4 seed, had them down 11-0 in the 4th inning, and that's when the weather put a stop to that one. And apparently, Grayville said, "That's enough. We're not going to make the trip back to finish it." And so, IHSA has that game at 7-0, but
I saw 11-0 somewhere.
Ted's got 11-0 on his Max Preps page. Ted Kerner is the South Central softball coach. I don't know.
He's a fairly reliable source.
Yeah, I think so. 11-0 was the score that
unless they scored 4 runs in like the top of the 4th, and then
yeah, I don't know. At any rate, Grayville didn't want to finish. Didn't
yeah.
I kind of see both sides of it. If I would not, I would think that if I were a senior on the team, I wouldn't want it to end that way.
So when did they have it played? Saturday?
Yeah, they finished it Saturday.
Possible reason that you and I hadn't thought about.
Graduations.
There you go.
Yep. I hadn't thought about it till you put the thought in my mind. Yeah, that's a fair point. Probably a lot of schools were doing graduation. And again, are you going to win? You're down 11-0 in the fourth. You're not going to win. You're probably driving all that way to play an inning, right? Like,
I've seen stranger things happen on a basketball.
yeah. I mean, South Central's obviously very good. They're 24-9. They're
Right.
uh that's actually two straight regional championships for South Central. They won 24 games last year, which I have to assume is
Let's say
yeah,
because of rain, they couldn't have started till noon because of wet grounds.
yeah. This is
Maybe 1 o'clock before you leave to go home, 1:30. What
yeah,
is it? An hour to Grayville from South Central, maybe an hour and a half.
I get it.
Now,
I think I do. Just thinking
girls
out
don't get
loud.
their hair done as quick as I do. So it's possible.
Do people get?
That's
I
the
don't know.
only legitimate reason, Whitey. That's the
Do
only
girls
legitimate
get?
reason.
Do girls get their hair done for? I don't think they get their hair done for
I don't
graduation.
know.
They're wearing a thing on their head anyway, right? Like I don't know.
Called a cap. See, now we're not sure you graduated from Neoga or Eastern, Whitey.
I
Right there.
graduated from both, and I went to the Neoga graduation. And my mom to this day is still probably, if I were to bring up that I skipped Eastern's graduation, she probably would still get a little smoke coming out the ears.
I graduated in the summer from Eastern. So
Yeah.
we were out in the library quad,
Oh,
had
they
no
don't do
summer
that
school,
anymore.
had a little catching up to do. So I had summer school. It was my favorite semester I ever had there, obviously.
I
But there may or may not have been several bottles of champagne handed under the ropes and passed around.
Listen, I graduated. I don't want to brag too much, but I graduated with honors from Eastern. Okay. And I hung on by the skin of my teeth to keep the GPA high enough to get that designation. Because my last semester there, I couldn't have possibly cared less about most of the classes I was taking.
I don't think they had that designation in the 80s, Whitey. I don't think they had an honors graduation
You
because
had to, I don't know if it was worth it. You had to take classes, certain honor sections of classes to get that. And they were challenging. And
I graduated with no barbell at Marty's. How's that?
that's probably at the end of the day, those things probably are about equally important to our lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, we had a crew. We may have owned Marty's for a couple of years.
I didn't frequent Marty's, but the one time I went in there was after my last final, my senior year, and I had a good time. We'll put it that way.
We may have been there, Whitey. Our little cliquish group may have had a representative there every day but Sunday. Well, we'd go in there and we played a lot of pinball while we were there, but you'd have a cold soda. They had great lunch back in the day.
Yeah,
They had
sure.
the best sub sandwich in town. They had a better sub than Jimmy John's when Jimmy John's first opened. And then they quit doing some of their food. So
Yeah. Anyway, where were we? South Central, 24-9. They won 24 games last year. I don't know off the top of my head, but they don't have complete data on IHSA, but I'm going to guess that's probably the most wins they've ever had. I remember I want to give Ted a little bit of a shout out here too, because first of all, I like Ted. He's a friend of mine. You know him
yep.
as well, but
He's originally from Jasper County, isn't he?
he is. We don't hold that against him, but yes, he is a Newton boy. His mom was an administrator there for years. But I remember when I first started the newspaper out of college. We're talking 2006, 2007. I mean, South
He was
Central.
JV coach, wasn't he, at Neoga basketball?
Well, and he was the baseball coach when I graduated from
Right.
high school. My senior year was his first year. But anyway, that South Central softball program was in the doldrums back then. I won't get into who it was, but somebody associated with the program pulled me aside after a game where St. Anthony had just taken him out behind the woodshed, and said, I can't get people to buy in. I can't get the interest. I can't get them to work at it. And it's, and you get games like this because of that. And now they've got their culture in a good place. I mean,
and that's the thing. And it probably started with a group of parents in travel ball when kids were about fourth or fifth grade, to be brutally honest. And you had a good group come through, and then it became contagious. And as much as there is bad things about travel ball, that's one of the greatest things that can kind of help with the culture as long as it's done properly.
I would like to think we're experiencing that in Neoga right now. Like we didn't even have a varsity softball team in Neoga this year, but we have be 12 and under, we have, I don't know, 40, 50 kids playing travel softball right now.
Good.
So, hope even if you get like half of them to stick with it, that's a pretty good program. So we'll see. I remember my daughter's travel team went down to Kid Mundy or Ryan, I can't remember which one, and played a South Central team last summer, and they just beat the holy shit out of us. Like so they've got young ones coming up too.
That's how programs are built.
Yep. So anyway, so that South Central hosted a regional, and they're also hosting the sectional. So again, Tuesday, South Central and Windsor Stew Straws will play. I should have looked, and I'll look this up while I'm talking. But then the other Wednesday semifinal will be Casey and Altamont. Now I'm looking to see what Windsor Stew Straws and South Central did when they played before, because that'd be interesting to know, and the kind of thing that maybe if I was more prepared, I wouldn't have to be rambling right now to try and figure out. Okay, so Windsor Stew Straws beat South Central 3-2 on April 3rd, so like a month and a half.
Pretty early.
Yeah.
There's still snow flying.
Then you go down exactly a month later, and they played
in the semifinals.
And South Central obviously won that 7-5 because they ended up playing St. Anthony in the championship game of the NTC tournament. So
big rubber game.
So there you go. They split. We'll see how that goes. That'll be, I mean, again, 3 out of the 4 teams in that sectional NTC.
So you got 4 NTC teams out of what, 9 that have softball or moving on?
Yeah, and again, one of those didn't even play this year. So yeah,
softball is starting to rival baseball in a conference sport.
Yeah, and you had Diederich softball playing in a regional championship as well.
Right.
So add that to the list. As far as the baseball regionals, aside from the St. Anthony Altamont game, which we will get to because that one was a classic. Windsor Stew Straws also played in the baseball regional championship. This was on Saturday. And they were up at Tuscola. Windsor Stew Straws was the number 1 seed. Arcola number 4 beat them 3-2 in the championship game.
Yep.
So a bit of an upset there. A couple of things stood out from that to me. First of all, I caught wind that Arcola only ever won one other regional championship in baseball, and that was in 1984.
Really?
So it's been a long time. And they only Arcola's 14-4 this year. They've barely played.
Well, that's like, I know St. Anthony softball was having trouble getting on the field. And some schools that aren't, we're kind of spoiled around here because every baseball school around here just about schedules 3 more games than they're allowed. So to make up for rainouts. Some schools don't do that. Hey, we're just, or maybe they don't feel like, hey, we're not going to have enough kids to pitch this year. Let's don't pick up a ton of non-conference games just to play games.
And, I don't know what Arcola's field is like or what the fields of the teams. They would have a spring conference, I assume, because they're a football school, so they're not playing fall baseball.
Right.
So maybe the schools in our conference don't have great facilities either. You don't get a lot of those games, like you have to push later down the road and cancel other games to get your conference games played, and
it seems like that Arcola-Tuscola line gets a lot of rain. I'm just going to tell you, I've driven through some downpours on that stretch of the interstate.
But Windsor Stew Straws, they finish up at 18-9. I saw them this year a couple of times, and it's a consistently solid program. And I've kind of had honestly looked at that regional and had just sort of penciled Windsor Stew Straws into the sectional play.
Right.
But that's not to be. It's
that's why you play the game.
Yeah. Just looking at the brackets there, I'm looking to see who Tuscola will face because of that. Gosh dang it.
It's Arcola, not Tuscola.
Arcola. Yeah, was it the Tuscola regional? I'm sorry.
Right.
That would help. So that's who South Central is going to play.
So did Arcola get on the fire trucks when they got home?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, probably. first regional championship in like almost 40 years. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Possibly.
They'll play South Central. South Central won its own regional, and they beat Diederich
Yeah, like
4-1 in the
4-1.
championship game. Now Diederich, yeah, 4-1. Diederich was the 8th seed. They had gotten to that point by upsetting North Clay, which was the top seed in that regional, the number 2 seed in the sectional, the top seed in that regional. Diederich beat them 4-3 in the semifinals to
Right.
get there.
And I saw that. I read a little bit. Alex Wallner had in there, and then I saw the box score, and North Clay made like 4 or 5 errors in that game, maybe 6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uncharacteristic. But again, remember, a lot of young kids playing.
Right. As
And
much as they've
sometimes
grown
those
up.
happen. Plus, Dietrich had Pete Britton didn't play what, the first half of the season?
Yeah.
Good player. He's going on a scholarship to play baseball. So
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they finished at 12 and 15. You know, it's not fantastic, but they got off to a slow start.
right.
And again, you talk about culture. Dietrich not so long ago had an issue where they barely had enough kids.
They were having trouble getting kids, and Colton Boer's kind of turning that culture around a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and that's good because it wasn't so long ago that Dietrich had a baseball team playing in a super sectional. I mean, they had a really good crop of athletes come through. Granted, like I think it was sort of one of those groups that doesn't come through a 1A school real
Right.
often, but they're not that far removed from it. So it was always sad to see that. I mean, I remember a game where they had to ask a manager to go play right field, and
That was in that wooden bat class. I was
felt
over there
terrible.
doing the game then.
Felt terrible for that kid because I mean, the ball found him a little bit, and he didn't show up even wanting to be out there playing the game, but he just took one for the team, literally, and they're not in that position anymore. They're moving past that, and that's good. But they did fall to South Central. South Central beat them 4-1. Aiden Dodson pitched the championship game and gave up 1 hit, struck out 10. He did walk 5. The only run he gave up was unearned, though. So they'll have the Bonara kid able to pitch in the semifinal against Arcola. He beat Red Hill. He shut out Red Hill in the semifinal. So that's a nice little 1-2 punch that South Central has, and they'll be able to theoretically save Dodson. I mean, they have to save Dodson because he won't be allowed to pitch again before the championship game of the sectional if they get there. But
right.
But they would be able to have him rested and ready for a potential title game, and Bonara should be a pretty good look for them against an Arcola team that, again, I'm not going to overlook them because I think I already overlooked them once and they beat Windsor Stew Straws, but South Central's got to be the favorite there. We'll see what happens. We'll see. South Central, of course, this is all feeding into that Altamont sectional. Arcola versus South Central is going to be one of the Wednesday semifinal games. That one's at 4:30, and the other one is going to be between St. Anthony and Casey Westfield. We will get into the St. Anthony Altamont game in a moment, but St. Anthony obviously did win. Casey won the Neoga regional. They beat Cumberland 4-2 in the championship game. That was Casey's the 7 seed. They're a 7 seed. They beat the number 2 seed Okaw Valley 8-2 in the semis, and then Cumberland was an upset winner over Neoga, at least based on the seedings in the semifinals, and then they beat Cumberland 4-2 in the championship game at Neoga. That's another one that got pushed back a day. I think they were maybe supposed to. No, they would have been scheduled to play Saturday. Yeah.
Baseball generally played Saturday. What was the St. Anthony Casey played during the regular season? They did, didn't they?
I believe so. Let's take a look at that.
I thought that was when St. Anthony was like scoring like 50 runs a game there for a stretch.
Yeah, they beat Casey 13-0 when they played back in mid-April. Casey is 9-18 on the year, so they're, they only won 1 conference game in the Little Illini. That's going to be That's
But remember, Bulldogs are going to be a little short-staffed.
well, that is true. And we'll get to that. I keep saying we'll get to that. Done more teasing in this
we've talked
episode.
enough about Casey. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. But despite the fact that St. Anthony had to use up a lot of pitching on Saturday, I think, the matchup is favorable for them. The matchups are favorable for both of the NTC schools involved in that sectional at Altamont. I would say that a pretty good chance that we're going to get a South Central St. Anthony game in the championship, but we'll see. We will see. Okay, so we've got
2A. The only school to talk about 2A would be Teutopolis.
Yeah, T-Town, 2A baseball wise, they got the win over Salem in the championship game of their regional. Remind me where that was at.
That was at Greenville.
Yeah, Greenville. That's right.
Mr. Lawson threw a heck of a ball game for the Shoes.
Yeah, T-Town has had
They've had a so-so spring. I mean, I don't think they're loaded with pitching.
And they haven't scored a lot of runs either.
No, and they're not. So it's just, it's one of those years where, hey, they won a regional. Last year they didn't win a regional. They got a regional. They got back there collecting trophies again.
Yep.
They're in the sectional with, where's the sectional at again? Breeze?
I'm looking it up right now. I was caught a little flat-footed, to be honest with you. Yeah, they're going
play Father McGivney.
It'd help if I looked at baseball instead of softball. You know what I'm saying?
Play Father McGivney, I think, at Breeze. Father McGivney was undefeated until they went to North Clay, and North Clay beat them pretty decent, I think.
Yeah, so it is Breeze Central technically hosting it. Breeze, whatever. They play, you're right, Father McGivney Wednesday. That's a semifinal game. Newton is also at that sectional.
Right. Father McGivney, whose priest, is a Teutopolis native, by the way.
Is that? Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I've actually heard that before.
Yeah. So, will he have a blue T-shirt on under his custom black outfit? We'll have to see.
So T-Town beat, and they had to win 3 games to win that regional too. They beat Vandalia. They beat Vandalia 4-1. They beat Flora 3-0, and they beat Salem 4-1.
Yeah, they didn't blow anybody out, but I think they're not making, or they kind of cut down on some of the mistakes they've been making at times during the year. So that's good to see. Congratulations to Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. Up to 17-15 too. So they went into that regional with a losing record, and now no matter what, from here on out, they will have more games than they lost. They've got a regional, they've got the regional plaque. It's again, you mentioned there's 6 seasons that are less successful than that, and it's not. Let's get the cliches in. It's not how you start; it's how you finish, right? Like it
right.
doesn't.
And I think we'll have to see. They just depends on how they play. The biggest thing is most of these T-Town kids in one way, shape, or form have been under a spotlight.
Yeah.
Father McGivney, I don't know yet. And when you start getting at this level, Whitey, it makes a difference.
I'm looking up Father McGivney on Max Preps real quick, so I'm just sort of curious. You mentioned the record there. Yeah,
one time they were 29,
36-1 they are now.
And North Clay's their only loss.
Yep.
And that was a sound defeat, wasn't it?
South Central.
South Central, okay. I knew it was one of the two.
Yep, South Central. That was on May 5th. I don't know. They played, you also look at it, they play like that week, they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So,
sure.
Baseball, you just never know. You never know how you're catching a team, but a lineup's a lineup. And you look at this, they've scored in 37 games, they've scored 387 runs and only given up 72. So I don't think it matters too much what day you're catching them on.
Well, and I've seen teams from that area. T-Town played several times in sectionals, and
yeah, I know what you're
T-Town's always hit the ball really well against them. Let's just put it that
right.
way.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, they're a good team. It'll be interesting.
And of course, the other in that sectional at Breeze Central, that's a Wednesday semifinal. Thursday, Newton and Columbia will play. Newton beat
Yeah.
Paris 8 to
I think
2.
Columbia won that sectional last year, early here at T-Town, or 2 years ago. Really had some talented kids.
I know Columbia, they shut out Breeze Central in the championship game of their own regional this year. Um, Newton's got a good team too, though.
Yeah.
So Newton hits the ball from what I've seen. So
Okay. Well, that'll be good. That'll be good Wednesday sectional. All right, let's do that girls softball, and then we'll do the other boys baseball.
all right, so it's Friday. It was the 2A to Topless softball section or regional. Sorry, regional, and it was T-Town and St. Anthony.
It was
And now
damp, chilly.
it was raining the whole time. Yeah. And you got to keep in mind that it wasn't that long ago that St. Anthony had run ruled T-Town in the
And
cross.
nothing.
Yeah, and yet after going up 1-0, St. Anthony found itself behind 4-1. T-Town scored 4 runs in the top of the third inning, and you're kind of wondering, especially with the weather being the way it is something crazy going to happen? And I don't take that as a slight, T-Town fans. I guess crazy is the wrong word, but St. Anthony.
No, but it was, when you're playing in
favorite.
weather, strange things can happen. And
Sure.
when the team who is the underdog gets a 4-1 lead on you, yeah, you don't know what's going to. But there's other things that can do there. And I actually listened to most of it. Was 4-4 when I headed to Springfield. So I listened to that on the drive to Springfield.
Yeah, St. Anthony got a couple runs back in the bottom of the third, and then they scored. You must have been listening to the big inning, because by the end of the sixth,
yeah, they scored 6 runs, didn't they?
Yeah, so they were up 9-4 at that point.
Right.
So St. Anthony did what it does, which is like you might be able to keep that lineup off the board for an inning, 2 innings, one time through.
They're pretty solid. They're pretty thick lineup.
They're going to eventually get their runs,
and they're missing a big contributor.
They won their game 14-4, was the final score. Yeah, I mean, they at the end of the day, Lucy Fearday, after struggling that one inning,
had a lot of strikeouts from when I started listening to the game moving forward. She maybe struck out the side 2 or 3 innings in a row.
And Matt made this point during the broadcast, but she for a pitcher that wins as much as she does, she's not necessarily a power pitcher, right? Like she's not racking up the huge strikeout numbers.
But she doesn't get hit that hard.
No.
Good location, little movement
behind her.
Little movement, and yeah. So, but they're missing. I forget which one of the Kibler girls was the catcher, but they haven't had her this year.
Yeah, they've definitely. Yeah, they definitely could have used her.
You could have had another bat in the lineup
there. Haley Nieberge, though, has done a good job, and
yes, she has.
And plus, she's their cleanup hitter. She's she's very, very solid. Yeah, it's a lineup that doesn't quit. Courtney Gibson, she took the loss for T-Town, but it kind of sounded like between her and Lucy, maybe the wet conditions were bugging her a little bit more as far as the strike zone goes, trying to.
Yeah, she had a couple walks from what I heard, but and the thing about T-Town, I don't know that Courtney was planning on playing after school. So, I don't know how she wasn't mid-season form, I don't think, when the season started. How's that?
Yeah.
So T-Town kind of struggled a little bit early, but she, once she got her rhythm, she had a nice finish to her season. I saw she had her 1,000th strikeout. Was it 1,000 strikeouts? 100 strikeouts. I forget. She got whatever strikeout for the season. I guess it'd be 100. It wouldn't be 1,000 strikeouts.
1,000 would be an awful lot.
Yeah, that would be like Randy Johnson-esque.
I thought you were talking career, and even then I'm thinking.
Well, maybe. I think it was for the season. No, that'd still be a lot. But no, she But I think as the season wore on, she started um, getting in
Mhm.
mid-season form. So,
When I
good season for them.
Yeah, when I saw T-Town play St. Anthony a few weeks ago, I thought Gibson, I mean, she had some good zip on it. She was bringing it. It's just a question of it's hard to strike out these St. Anthony hitters. They've
Yeah,
got
they're good hitting. They're all about putting the ball in play.
Yep. But T-Town finished, 17-13 is what I've got them at. Actually, probably 17-14. It doesn't look like they've got that St. Anthony game up yet, but they got a battle from Westville in the semifinal, beat
Yeah,
them.
what 11 innings, 10 innings?
Yeah, it took a little while. Yeah, 10 innings was they scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th to win it. So Westville probably had a good pitcher. That's a big equalizer in these games, right? Like you
Sure it is.
have a pitcher that's on that day. Any game is doable, and that's why even though St. Anthony is definitely getting in the deep water now with their sectional, if Lucy's spotting the ball, she's got a good defense behind her, and they've got a good lineup. You know, they're going to have their hands
So
full.
they've got BCC. Did they beat BCC last year in the first game?
Boy,
Because Unity beat him in the sectional championship. Because I did that game on the radio.
yeah, you're right. It was Bloomington Central Catholic. Yeah, that was up.
Maroa.
Yeah, that's right. Because I did the semifinal, but I didn't do the championship. I was
Well,
up.
they bring the A team in for the championship.
Is that what it is?
Hey, and I'm probably
Oh,
I've kind of recruited another announcer if Greg needs one down the stretch here.
well, you'll have to.
He
Yeah.
knows a little bit about baseball.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. You told me who this. You
Yeah,
told me who you were looking at.
I mean, this depends on travel ball and crap if he can, but yeah, or
I honestly
recruiting.
I don't know what all our. I know what I'm doing Tuesday and Wednesday this week, but I don't know
What are you doing Wednesday?
as far as I know, I'm going to Altamont. I think that's the deal. Going
Well,
to
I would
Altamont.
assume they're also is somebody going to Breeze cover T-Town sectional,
I
or have you heard?
I'm not gonna. I haven't heard. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
All
know
right.
what the plans are. I just
Okay.
know that. Actually, I guess maybe I don't know that I'm going to Altamont. I know Greg told me that
Well,
he wanted help Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe
you may take the rookie with you and go to Breeze.
I don't know. I doubt that would be the way it would go. But
Yeah, but I mean, remember the rookie knows that area, so
yeah, sure. Um, so yeah, Bloomington Central Catholic. That's who St. Anthony plays at the Tolono Unity sectional.
Mhm.
Uh, they're 19-12, 19-12-1. But
Who's Tolono? Yeah, who's Tolono play?
yeah, that's a good
Oh, I thought you were looking at the page. I'm sorry.
Tolono Unity plays Marshall. So
Marshall had a pretty good season, really.
yeah, Marshall won at Sullivan. They won that regional. They beat St. Joseph Ogden 12-8 in the championship game. So and beat Shelbyville 16-6 in the semis. So I'm not going to pretend like I know anything.
They can score.
But,
They can score. I think Tolono will beat them though.
Yeah, I mean Tolono's real good. That's the whole.
Yeah,
Tolono
they got
is.
They only had a handful of seniors last year on that team.
Yep.
But I think their pitcher was they had one kid who just every time up hit the ball like a frozen rope. I think she graduated.
Tolono beat Maroa Forsyth 6-0 in that regional championship. That was at Maroa.
Yeah.
So yeah, St. Anthony and BCC Tuesday, and Tolono and Marshall Tuesday. They play both semifinals Tuesday. Championship game Saturday morning at 11. Again, St. Anthony, it's just the difference between 1A and 2A because you get to a 2A sectional and you start playing these schools like this. Like, I mean, that's the thing about Bloomington Central Catholic. You don't even have to know anything to just expect that they're going to have, if it's a girls' sport, they're going to be good, right? They're going to have the athletes and you're going to have your hands full. You don't even have to be well versed in that particular roster just to know it's going to be tough. So
they're going to be a solid team, and they play a pretty tough schedule. So
yep, absolutely.
And St. Anthony plays a tough schedule too.
They do. They've done what they can to challenge themselves, and they're playing. St. Anthony is playing the ball that it needs to be playing. Again,
They beat Tolono earlier in the year.
no, is that right? I thought Tolono beat them. I'm looking now. Tolono, didn't they play? I thought they played. I don't know.
Thought they did.
I'm not seeing it on their schedule anymore. So
And maybe T-Town beat Tolono.
it must have been. I think Tolono. Oh no, Tolono. They beat Tolono 8-5. They beat Tolono 8-5. It was a little later. I was looking up toward the top of the schedule.
Right. Last year they opened the season
That's right. They played Tolono very early last year.
First game and not good.
So. They beat Tolono Unity 8-5 in 8 innings on April 25th, which was in the middle of a streak where they won they haven't. St. Anthony hasn't lost in a while. That's kind of worth mentioning too, right? Like they've lost 3 games, but they were all before April 12th was the last time they lost a game. Okay. So you do the math at that point. At that point, they were 5 and let's see. No, I can count. I promise. They were 4-3 at that point.
What are they now?
They are 21-3.
So they've won 17 in a row. See how quick I did that math, Whitey?
That's real good. I want to make sure on that record. The Daily News story doesn't say. Their Max Preps page has them at 19-3, but no regional games in there. So
that'd be 21.
Well, at any rate, they're good. They're good. Hey,
okay. Baseball.
St. Anthony's good at softball. And newsflash, St. Anthony's pretty good at softball or at baseball too.
Yeah, I had a heck of a game. I was watching golf being played in the rain in one of those 1960 fake comfortable chairs, and happened to go, that game started. I just want to check the score. So I went to my WXEF KJ app and turned it on, and
of course
I heard the poetic waxings of Greg Sapp and Matt Robinson say, "Well, we're here in the we're in the top of the 9th." And I go, "What?"
Well, that was right when it got interesting again.
And it was Altamont had scored their 2 runs, so I heard the last Altamont out,
and
then that made it 5-3, 6-4,
5-3,
5-3. And now St. Anthony coming up in the bottom of the 9th, and I thought, and then here, the typical Kenley Jansen special, walk the first batter, and I thought, uh-oh. Hey, I did hear that one.
Yeah, well,
that's all right. Hey, my cat was in here crying. We're even.
Yeah, well, you got beagles, and the slightest noise they hear, they're going to get worked up.
You guys need to get fish so they don't make any noise.
Yeah, so this was a game, and St. Anthony went down 5-3 in the 9th and tied it up in the bottom of the 9th, and of course, it's high school baseball, right? So they're already in extra innings at that point, and then it was just, I actually decided to go for a run about the 8th inning. I think I'd been listening to it, and I went running, and I was listening to it, thinking it would end at some point. I got 5 miles in the post-game show. The interviews were still going on when I got back. It was the 12th inning when St. Anthony finally won it. And here's the thing. So 5-5 game going in the bottom of the 12th.
Was it a 6-5 final?
6-5 was the final, yeah.
Okay.
St. Anthony won that game with the 6, 7, 8 spots in their lineup.
Yeah. It's 6, 7, 8, 9. Ryan Schmidt had a couple hits too.
Yeah, but I'm just specifically that inning, Oh, it was it's Koenig who hit 6th for them.
He led off the 12th with a single.
It's a base hit. Brock Jansen sacrifices him to second, and then Will Haney, base hit, wins the game. And that's the number 8 hitter in the lineup. But you're right, Ryan Schmidt got on base 3 or 4 times in the 9 hole for the Bulldogs. They're just there's no break. There's no break.
Well, and you look at that lineup, you've got Haney and Schmidt batting 8, 9, and you know what? They both hit the ball.
Yeah, for sure. But the starting pitching in that game was excellent. Mason
Yes.
Robinson went for Altamont, and you had Brock Fearday for St. Anthony. Altamont actually got out to a 2-0 lead. I think maybe some defense behind Fearday kind of led to some of that. Altamont got a few. They loaded the bases, I think, with 3 straight singles. It was, and then there was a fielding error that allowed one of the runs to score after that, and Altamont went up 2-0. That was let's see. I don't know which inning it was, but it was pretty early in the game. But then St. Anthony gets 3. It must have been the top of the first, maybe even. St. Anthony got 3 runs in the bottom of the second, though, and that was the only runs. Those were the only runs that Robinson gave up.
Right.
So it's a 3-2 ball game, and Altamont tied it up late, and they tied it up in the 6th, I believe it was. So
So who started for St. Anthony in their semifinal game against Brownstown St. Elmo? They won what, 4-1?
Yeah, that's
Was it Jansen who started?
well, you would kind of think that it had to be, right? Because because here's the deal. Fearday pitches 6 innings, 6 2/3 innings in this game, and gets lifted because his pitch count ran up, and they went to Eli Levitt at that point. Who's their I mean
He's had some arm issues during the season, I think.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of the 2 or 2A.
I want to make sure I get this right, because if Levitt could not have pitched earlier in the week and thrown as many pitches as he did Saturday. So it looks
Greg
like
and Matt mentioned multiple times during the broadcast in those extra innings that whichever team came out with the win would be slightly hamstrung moving forward. However, both teams have pretty good pitching depth.
Yeah, Brock Jansen pitched against CHBC, and St. Anthony won that game 4-1. They didn't blow them out by any means, but
right. Well, sometimes you get in postseason, you get a little sphincteritis with the bat.
Well, and CHBC probably managed to save. They had the Radloff kid pitch for them, and most likely he must be their number one if he held St. Anthony to 4 runs. But yeah, Brock Jansen pitched that game, so that gave Tony Crick 2 big bullets, and he needed them, as it turned out.
Yeah, he used them both.
Yeah,
a lot.
And here's the deal. This is information that you gotta have. Let me see if I still have this pulled up somewhere. But the pitch limit situation is like this.
Changes in the postseason.
It does. The guideline is this: that in the postseason, let me find the right one. That's an old one. After 75 pitches, after you've thrown 75, you can't pitch. You have to have 4 days of rest before you can pitch again. So 76 to 115. 115 is the max. You can't start a new hitter after 115. Right.
So Fearday can't throw again until the sectional championship if they get there. And Levitt is.
I don't know where Levitt was at, because Levitt threw
a lot of pitches because Altamont loaded the bases. How many innings did Fearday go?
He pitched into the 7th. He got 2 outs in the 7th, and then had to come
because then he got the out in the 7th, went through the 8th and 9th. They scored runs, loaded the bases, so there was a lot of pitches that inning.
I don't think, I bet
he's I bet he got close to the 75 number. I really do.
Yeah, but the thing is, again, you're playing a KZ team in the semifinals.
So who's their 4th pitcher, Whitey? Who do you think their number 4 is? I mean, I don't know who they've thrown. I mean, I know they've thrown a lot of kids this spring. I've heard Link throw.
I would say I'm looking at their statistics here, just in terms of innings pitched. And this
somebody had to throw, because Levitt didn't throw as much this spring as usual.
No, at this point, Nick Ruhal threw the 4th most innings, and that's like 19. So that's not That's
So
not
Levitt was what, second or third?
third.
Who was fifth?
Loritzen and Sam
Okay.
Link both threw like 10 innings.
All right. Well, all hands on deck, buddy.
You're just going to have to hope. And I don't think it's a huge hope. I think, I'm going to guess that CHBC is not a lot worse than KZ Westfield. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
And Brock Jansen, pitched very effectively against them.
You just need efficient innings out of Brock Jansen.
I mean, I don't look. Brock Jansen ran a 2.29 ERA, so it's not
Right.
like.
But you need efficient innings out of him.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get into, Link's a sophomore, Lorenzen's a freshman. I think Link's a sophomore. So he's a sophomore.
I think at the end of the day, the key to that is going to be
offense,
scoring the runs that you need to. And St. Anthony most likely will, I don't know what KZ's pitching situation is like, but again, KZ, they've won half as many games they've lost this year.
Right. So, and I'm assuming they're number one through in the championship. So
you would think. So St. Anthony's going to need to score the recipe is going to be put runs on the board, and Brock Jansen pitch again efficiently is the word. Like, the key is just to keep him out there and not have to go to your fourth and fifth options. And he can do that. Like, again, he's been good this year. I don't want to make it sound like he hasn't been good. He got hit around a little bit in the City Series, but that's against the 3A team, right? That's against an Effingham team with some pretty good players in the lineup. So that's what they're up against. Altamont, it's tough for Altamont. 25-9 is where they finish, and several of those losses were early in the year. They had a deal where, so Mason Robinson starts that game, comes out after 6, and they went to Stimke. And
no, he came in later.
They went to, was it Eli?
Stimke came in the 9th.
Oh, it was Elam that pitched next.
Right.
Elam pitched, and then Stimke came in to pitch. And the reason
Stimke came in the 9th, and then they moved Robinson to catcher, and that's the first time Mason has caught all season.
Yeah. And that I guess I had not realized that he hadn't caught any this year because
he was a catcher as a freshman sophomore.
Yeah, he caught so much, but now he played 4 different positions in that game, right? Because he played third base and shortstop, but that's just
pitcher, first, short, and third. Yeah.
But Stimke pitched well. It's a lot to ask of anybody. He kept St. Anthony off the board for a long time. And they're just.
And then a Robbins kid finished up, a lefty.
Yeah, that was. Let's see. I'm looking here.
I think he came in
Ethan Robbins. Yeah, so Robinson went actually 7 innings according to this, and then Elam for an inning, Stimke for 2, and Robbins for an inning and a third, and ended up.
Yeah, he pitched the 11th and got 1 out in the 12th on the sacrifice bunt.
Yep. It's just you're really limiting St. Anthony to 12 runs and 6 runs in 12 innings is
4 different pitchers too.
Yeah. Altamont had the team to be in a game like that against St. Anthony because they have thrown so many kids this year. They've got so many arms they trust. But
postseason baseball is a little like postseason basketball. Runs, you don't score as many runs in a postseason basketball, you don't score as many points. So that's the thing. St. Anthony, yes, they have an offense that's been pretty good all season. However, they're not putting up gaudy numbers. They're just kind of putting up enough to win right now. And at some point, their bats are going to have to put up a big number for them.
And I thought that Altamont's coach, Alan Witt, had some really awesome things to say in his post-game interview.
I didn't hear any of that.
Obviously both coaches are going to give the typical platitudes about it's a shame we had to play this, and it is a shame they had to play this game.
That's a sectional, it's a championship or a super sectional caliber game. I.e. throw South Central in the mix.
Yeah, but he said he said he brought up about, he has kids that played for him years ago come up to him and say, remember this thing that happened in a practice sometime, or something that seemed pretty innocuous at the time, but he said those are the things you remember. Like, that's the tough losses, you don't end up thinking about them as much as you think you might. Like, it's just such a pleasure to get to spend the time with these kids and to make those memories, and know that you had a positive impact. I don't know, I don't remember exactly everything that he said, but it's those basic points, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
such, like, these things hurt in the moment, but to play with a group like this, there's just so many good memories you make.
Well, you
And
got a lot of good quality coaches in the area. You really
yeah,
do. And
yeah. I mean,
that's a big reason why the area is so successful.
well, and Tony Prick, obviously, among those two, and he said some great things too. He talked about how, to win a game like that, you have to have players who have just completely completely bought in, and they're playing for each other.
Right.
Like, it's not about you, it's about the team. It's about making that sacrifice to go out there and put it all on the line for the other 8 guys on the field. And it sounds a little corny, but when you're out there
Well,
doing it, it's not at all. It's
no,
not
no.
at
When you
all.
coach, you see it. You see teams that play for each other. You see teams and kids who play for themselves. It's commonplace. And the teams that usually are the ones you remember are the ones that will do what they got to do for each other. So
Yep.
yeah, big week of baseball and softball coming up.
Yep. So I
Track's
think
got 3 and 4A. I don't know how FEM sending some athletes to the state track meet. I don't know how many.
you're
Uh,
talking in junior high, right? Yeah.
high school,
High school. Yeah. Okay.
high school. Um, so there. Major League Baseball, Whitey. As I said earlier, I got a text or a message from a friend in Arkansas, big Cub fan, and he's concerned a sleeping giant has been awoken. Um, and we talked about this playing for each other thing. I did hear, where did I see this today? Maybe I heard Ricky Horton talking about it today. This Cardinal team is different than it was 2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, they're different. Nolan Arenado hits a home run every game. That'll help.
Well, and
And he
he
looked like
said
garbage for the
it's like
first.
the Wilson Contreras thing may have pulled them together.
Well, yeah, I hope
And
so.
that wasn't like media driven. I mean, media
Oh,
stoked it, but that came from inside.
yeah, no, yeah, sure. The media started asking the question more, but that's because a couple of guys couldn't stop saying stupid shit about it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah,
So,
I haven't pitched today. Pitched pretty good. He just freaking threw 100 pitches in 4 2/3 innings, and he can't seem to command his fastball enough not to walk people. So
well, the Dodgers are kind of, you're catching the Dodgers at the right time too. Hey, you know, we need to wrap it up. I can hear
I didn't
children
hear anything other
screaming
than
at
one
each
dog
other.
bark.
What we're he's on edge because he can hear Mackenzie and Derek like having some sort of a knockdown drag out fight out in the hallway. The
Yeah.
beauty of the beauty of children, you
Uh,
just you take the good with the bad, but
Wait till they get my age, Whitey. You get to hear all kinds of stories. You're like, what?
um anyway, yeah, the Dodgers, like, I know they just put Urias on the DL. They
Well,
kind
you
of,
gave up 4 homers in an inning, for God's sakes.
yeah, he's got some sort of an arm issue.
I imagine
Dustin May's having problems. I mean,
Max
like,
Muncy got ejected today for arguing an obvious strike, I guess.
yeah, but
So
that's who the Braves play next. So I'm kind of like, if you gotta get him at the right time.
Cardinals are now in third.
Yeah, they're basically even with the Cubs at this point, which is
They
still
have
like
the
six,
advantage
six,
over
seven
them because
games
they took
below.
2 or 3 from the Cubs.
Yep.
And now they go to Cincinnati for 4. So big 4-game series for them because now you should go there and win 3 or 4.
I'll tell you what, Did you see Cincinnati City Connect uniforms? Because those things are pretty nice. If you haven't, go take a look.
Buddy, I've been out of the loop for 3 weeks.
Yeah, well,
Getting ready to start on a month here shortly.
take a moment when you get a chance.
I'm 5 days short of being a month out of the loop.
Well,
I don't even know what day it is, other than you text me saying, "What are we doing?" I go, "Oh, it must be Sunday." It's not that why he talks to me.
well, if you ever need, I don't want people. If you ever need to just not do a show,
I know we called on Joan Rivers to pinch hit, and I got a little worried. I heard it was a good show. I listened to it. It was a good show. I figured I better, I didn't want to be Wally Pipp. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Matt's got the time for that either. And just
I
think
almost thought about reaching out to Mr. Sapp today.
next
Had
year,
I had to stay in Springfield.
this time next year, Matt's going to be chasing Mason all over. Watching Kaskaskia play.
Yeah,
I imagine
I know.
he'll be a busy man. So, all
That's
right.
good. Do you enjoy? I was in Orlando, Florida, Daytona, Florida, watching my daughter play golf. You do it.
Yeah.
Because then pretty soon they're like, hey, you want to go hit some golf balls? No. So you do it while you can.
It's bad enough right now. I'll tell you, we have to go to Bethany for a travel softball game, a 12U game, and it starts at 8 tomorrow night. So, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's not school. But first of all, you should never have to go to Bethany for anything. Okay.
Well, we're playing.
You drive by, you gotta drive through there on your way to Mount Zion.
We were playing in this league, and I don't know. We've ended up there a lot because the league tournament was there last year. So
They said, let's screw Neoga and give them the 8 o'clock game in Bethany. I bet their lights are dim. That'll get eerie. Do they play out by that cemetery?
They do. You drive right through the cemetery. Drive right through the cemetery to get to the park.
Whitey, I'd wear a couple crosses. I got some here at the house. You need them.
Listen. I played there about as many times as we've played on our home diamond over the last couple 3 years. So
yeah, may just have to co-op together.
It'll be fun.
Well, hey, when are our cookies getting delivered? I saw we ordered cookies.
I don't know. I'm going to be in town Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll get it worked out.
Hey, and we got that book taken care of, by the way.
Your dad texted me.
Okay, well, he was given that one job to notify you. I'm glad he got that accomplished.
All right, we're rambling. Get some
sleep.
Right.
I do need. Talk to you later. I will be in bed probably by 9:30.
Well, it's 8:15 now, so I'm kind of wondering what you're going to wait so long for.
Well, I have supper over here I have to eat eventually. A neighbor brought me some pork loin. I'm not going to turn that down.
I wouldn't either. All right. We'll talk to you next week, Mike.
See you, Whitey.